Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 46 of the Cosmic Force. And tonight, in honor of March Madness and the Ides of March, we have our very own Imperial March tonight, where we are talking about all of the lovely Imperials who have had the greatest honor of being Darth Vader's handler. Spoiler alert, they all end up very poorly. We have new comic news, new comics on the weekly pull list, and new patrons to honor. So let's go ahead and get right on into it tonight, and we will introduce start where we always do with somebody who has a little bit of a different role tonight. Emma is our producer tonight as Jacob is on spring break. Emma, how we doing over there?
It's going okay so far. I mean, I don't even want to breathe on my computer right now. It's hot. It's very hot, but you know what? That's okay. It's going fine so far.
No. It is not hot. You need to say exactly what you said as the intro was running.
Fine. As the mainer I am, I said it was wicked hot.
And Caleb and I lost it.
Yeah, and I couldn't hear anything because I'm the only one that can hear the stuff in OBS. Anyways, it's totally fine. I'm wearing my Black Spire Outpost hat tonight, and also some exciting news from me. I procured some tickets to Celebration, so
yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
I'm really
congratulations.
Stoked. Thank you. So yeah, gonna hopefully see some familiar faces in May, and looking forward to it. So I'm sure we'll talk about it some more as we go on.
I've heard Utini is working on quite a representation going out there. Not gonna give out any details about anything more than that, but are working on on getting people out there. So that is awesome. Hopefully your computer stays nice and cool for the rest of the show.
If things Caleb, suddenly break, you know why.
It's Jacob's fault for not being here. Let's be real. Caleb, how are we doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. I will freely admit this whole episode was my bad idea. I came up with the pun and decided, it's time for another Imperial centric one. So another time to bust out the Vader tie and the badge numbers. So I think we're in for a good quick time. I think we'll get in and out of here and talk a lot about Vader and the people that he has influenced and has influenced him. So let's keep this ball rolling.
Holy
that's
smokes,
a really good.
Look at your you've got your Imperial whatever the heck they call that.
The rank insignia.
Yeah, and a tie. You got the combo.
Exactly. I've got to be some important somewhere around here.
So, all right. Well, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are a Star Wars comics podcast that broadcasts live right here on youtube.com/Utini every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. But if you can't join us live, that is quite all right, because we are also available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. So wherever you are, if you're here on YouTube or if you're in those platforms, be sure to throw us a like so that others can find us a little bit easier. We are also a part of the Utini podcast network of nearly a dozen shows and a Discord channel at utini.com/Discord with more than 1,000 members and dozens of channels to choose from. If you like what you see and you want to say thanks, then head on over to our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Utini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Utini podcast network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community involvement activities. And like I said at the top of the show, we do have some new patrons that we want to honor this week. So I'm going to toss it over to Emma so she can tell us who they are.
Yeah, for sure. Bear with me for a second. I'm working off of one screen tonight, which is very difficult. So yeah, we've got some new patrons here. 3 to be sure. So we've got Lane Hickerson, Sean Faust, and Austin Vanderlyn as our new patrons. So thank you guys so much. I hope you've been enjoying some of our exclusive content. If you haven't already, you've got some great stuff waiting for you, like the Ghost Crew, as well as some movie commentaries. And there's been a new one recently added, Rogue One, and pretty sure one that's coming soon is Revenge of the Sith. So you have that to look forward to. So thank you guys so much for joining our Patreon. And we look forward to getting to know you.
All right. We also have some news this week to kick off the show. Caleb, you've got a pretty hefty piece of news right here.
Hefty is the good word for
this. Yeah. You see what I did there?
Exactly. Yes. The Dr. Aphra Omnibus, which features all of her 2017 run, is getting a reprint. This is very exciting because it means they sold out because this is the series that's written by Keon Gillen and Simon Spurrier. I said everything from 2016 to 2019, as well as some issues in between. Just a really great all-encompassing volume of her early work here. It's a lot going on. The first printing and my edition, I do actually have this omnibus. It does have a few printing errors, so I wonder if I'll have to exchange that out. But it is it's a really fantastic deep dive. Even if you've never read any of Aphra, or if you think or if you're a big fan, do it yourself a favor, pick this up. The pages are extra glossy. It's really great to hold something and read the comics that way. So exciting news.
Yeah, very exciting. I'm glad to see that was popular. I'm not surprised. It's an entire run in there, so it's a great way to get into that character if you've never read any of her stuff before.
I don't have an Omni yet, and I am very tempted to grab this because
not gonna lie, I am too. Yeah.
it's well, and here's the other thing. We read, because the Dr. Aphra #1 is on our Foundational 5. I read that, and I read the 2020 run. But other than like maybe a couple of sprinkles here and there, I really haven't read any of Aphra. And I know how much she's loved, and I love her in what I have read. I just haven't gotten around to picking up these back orders. So this, as weird as this is going to sound, it might be the cheapest way for me to get all of this is to just knock it out in one fell swoop. So yeah, really looking forward to this. So all right, our second piece of news. If you all remember, last June, the Marvel Comics were able to use the entire month to have some Pride covers, and they were such a big success that it has been announced today that Pride covers are going to be returning for the month of June. So June 2022 we'll have variant Pride covers. I personally love this. I believe I collected every single one of the variants this past year. So I am looking forward to this coming out again. Emma, do you have any new characters that you think you'd like to see? I mean, High Republic has a lot of interesting characters that we could see featured in this.
Yeah, High Republic has a lot of interesting characters that I'm tempted to pick, but I'm actually going to pick someone outside of the High Republic, and I think it might be because the Queen's fever is starting to rise, and I think I would love to see Sabe actually on a cover.
Okay.
I would really love that, and she's been a big part of the comics recently in the Darth Vader stuff, and yeah, I think she would be a great addition. But yeah, there's really so many great options that they could do this for years, honestly, at this point. So I'm really excited about it.
Exactly. Yeah, my pick would be from the High Republic, and it's Leox Jossi, which a little shame he hasn't shown up more in the comics, but he's like, when I first saw him, like, wait, he's asexual. So, that's another part of that spectrum. And it's good to see that sort of, he's still being representative there. And I don't know, I just want to see more Leox Jossi because, having a stone Matthew McConaughey in space, aces.
So I think the characters that I'd like to see the most, now I know the cover art doesn't necessarily always have to represent the story that's being told, but the characters that I think that pop up to in my mind first is because I just read Midnight Horizon would obviously be Zine and Lula, but considering that Wave 2 is going back in time, we're obviously not going to get stories about these two. So I hope that doesn't mean that they're excluded from the covers, because I think that there would be some awesome covers featuring those two. So yeah, we've got just a couple of months, and we'll hopefully be able to see some very, very awesome looking covers. So be sure that when you are out there to pick up these variant covers, so we can keep seeing this promotion run into the future. So, all right, Caleb, we have another piece of news.
Not so good, this one, but as of, is there a time frame on this one, or has it already happened? I forgot.
It has already happened. Yeah.
Yes. So
actually, this image that I'm showing right now, you can see that normally on Amazon. Actually, Caleb, why don't you tell everybody what this is about first?
So the bad news is that all the IDW titles, which is, the Star Wars Adventures and the High Republic Adventures, have been pulled from Amazon and Comixology. you can now no longer buy these comics digitally. You can still get the paper trade paperbacks. You can still get the physical comics. If you've already purchased it digitally, it will still be in your library. But as of right now, they're no longer available for physical purchase. And there's no news on when/if they are coming back. I would imagine at some point they will be re-released or at least put in some sort of omnibus. But currently, the only way to get it is to go to eBay and get a real book.
That's right. Yeah, the image that I'm showing on the screen right now, usually on Amazon, under the listing, there will be like paperback, and then underneath that, there would be like Kindle and Comixology. And as you can see, these do not have that option. So this has taken into effect already. I can confirm that I still have my IDW books, despite the switch. So that is a plus. I am very confused as to why this happened, though. Because I can't think of another like easy way to get these digitally. So I feel really bad for people that weren't able to experience these, that only read digitally. But I'm still glad that we can at least get them in paperback. But hopefully they come back soon, because these are still really great stories that have a lot of value left to give.
I have no inside information, but I have to assume that this is part of whatever contract that's either run up with IDW or that is in place now that Dark Horse is back in because I believe that the titles are still. Actually, I'm not even going to say that because I don't know for certain. But so I'm sure that this is related to whatever contract is either running up or coming through with Dark Horse. So hopefully we will see these again in the near future. So. All right, that is all for non-Utini news. We do have a piece of exciting Utini news. So Emma, why don't you go ahead and share that with our listeners?
Yeah, so this actually has to do with our buddy Jacob, who is on spring break tonight. He wrote a wonderful guide to on how to read the War of the Bounty Hunters publishing initiative, along with some background information on those comics, if you're just getting into them. We've discussed this a bunch on the show, but this guide is a very concise way to get all of that information. And you can find the link to this guide in the description below. And additionally, we also have a video coming out that adapts this guide, hosted by our very own Caroline, and that should be releasing tomorrow. So if you don't want to read a guide, you can watch the video, get all the same information. And really happy with how this came out. Jacob did a great job organizing it. He was kind of the person that I think we all relied on, honestly, when these were coming out with like, what order do we read these in, when issues came out on the same day. So this was right up his alley, and he knocked it out of the park. So great job, Jacob.
Yes, there were lots of books in the war under the War of the Bounty Hunter title. I believe we said something like it was 50 plus books. So a comprehensive list like this is definitely something that will be beneficial to you, especially if you haven't, whether you've never read it or you want to go back and maybe you're like me and you read it in release order, and you want to see and realize it in a different way. So kudos to Eric and to Jacob for putting that together and putting that on the site, and to Caroline for putting the video out together, our video out. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into our weekly pull list. And Emma has our pull list this week, and we've got two different books this week.
I do, yeah. So some interesting stuff. We have one single issue. It is, again, let me switch my screens over here. Sorry for the delay. We have Halcyon Legacy #2, A Most Dangerous Gamble, written by Ethan Sachs, pencils and inks by Will Sliney, cover by E.M. Geist. Colorist is Rochelle Rosenberg, and the letters are by Joe Sabino. When I saw this cover, I was like, holy smokes, this looks interesting. So I can't wait to dive into this after the show. It's a gorgeous cover. All right, and next up we have, it is actually a collected edition. I believe this came out yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, and this is the Legends Epic Collection Legacy Volume 4. This collects Legacy numbers 1 through 18, Star Wars Tales number 19, and Star Wars Visionaries number 1. This was written by a variety of writers, Corinna Bacau, Gabriel Hardman, Jason Hall, Ryan Church and Stephanie Martiniere. Pencils by also a variety of artists here: Gabriel Hardman, Brian Albert Ties, Paul Lee, Ryan Church, and Stephanie Martiniere. The cover is by David Wilkins. Inks by Brian Albert Ties. Colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, Jordan Boyd, Paul Lee, Ryan Church, and Stephanie Martiniere. And letters by Steve Dutro, Michael Heisler, Ryan Church, and Stephanie Martiniere. So the links to these books are down in the description below if you'd like to pick one up for yourself.
All right, let's go ahead and keep moving into what we're loving this week. And we have one piece of art this week, and it was actually submitted by me this week, as I was reading through some of my back issues that I hadn't quite gotten caught up on yet, because with my 3 children, it's kind of hard to sit down and always have some time to read. So I was able to knock out a couple of my back issues. And this week's issue or art actually comes from Bounty Hunters number 19. The artist for this book is also Ethan Sachs, just like with the Halcyon Legacy. But the colorist name is Brian Valenza. And Emma, do we have this?
I have that. Let's see here. 1 second.
I love these modern day. It's a splash page, and I love how we have the reason that I was able to choose this week was I just love how there's two different scenes going on, and this is definitely used to introduce the characters in the book. This is spoiler alert. This is Valence's new fighter squadron. So we're being introduced to all of the members of his squadron while they're in the middle of a dogfight. And I just enjoy how anytime an artist is able to kind of take this sort of these sort of splash pages and have those sort of very unique introductions to all the characters, it's always something that's caught my eye. And as soon as I was able to read it, or as soon as I read it, I was like, hey, let's go ahead and pull this for some art of the week. So very fun episode, a very fun issue. I'm really enjoying what the book is how the story is moving in this book. So if you haven't picked up Bounty Hunters recently, I would highly recommend it. So
yeah, for sure.
We do not have a community art of the week. So if you are interested in getting your art featured, make sure you can either tweet at the show at Cosmic Force Show or join our Discord and share an image in our Cosmic Force Discord channel. All right. What we are reading this week, Caleb, you shared that you were getting into some Legends comics before the show. Which title are you getting into?
I started reading it quite a while ago when we were doing our Jan Duursema spotlight and our John Ostrander spotlight. But Star Wars Legacy, that's the one that takes place 130, 150 years into future past movies. A lot of very interesting things. Kind of a dark, gritty reboot. It's good. There's a lot of going on there, and it's exciting to have opening up a new portal to a new time frame that I don't know much about. So that's been a pretty good, solid read. I'm taking a break from other Star Wars books because I'm an audio listener. I'm going through a very old book, which was A Princess of Mars by why am I blanking on it right now? By Edgar Rice Burroughs. Like, this book is now officially 100 years old because it was published in 1912. It's good. Like, definitely, you have to take a lot of things with a grain of salt because it's written 100 years ago by someone who had very interesting views when it came to people and their progeny and all like that. So take that out of there. It's still a pretty fascinating story. Very, definitely interesting to see. Count that as a building block for so much more science fiction to come.
Yeah, these for those who don't know, this was actually the book that was turned into the Disney blockbuster flop, John Carter,
which was
for what
10 years ago. This
10 years ago this week. Yes, that movie came out and unfortunately didn't do so hot. I actually never got around to seeing it, but I've heard that John Carter is and this entire saga has a heavy influence on things like Dune, things like Star
Definitely.
Wars. So if you are a science fiction aficionado, do not sleep on these books. Again, as Caleb said, they're kind of old, so there are certain elements that are maybe not necessarily as appropriate anymore. But other than that, they really are a staple of the history of science fiction. So definitely some good books to pick up there. I'm not reading anything else. I've got too much other things. Kids are on spring break. I don't have any free time. Emma, are you reading anything this week?
Not anything interesting. Nope. Just
hopefully Jacob's getting some extra time to
I hope
read
so. Maybe something that isn't law related.
Maybe
I hope he gets a break.
Maybe he's finally picked up Alphabet Squadron.
Maybe.
He's only been trying to read that for a year and a half. So
yeah,
right.
There's a time for everything. So.
It's not this week. I can assure you that.
All right, we are going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about the Imperial March, the many handlers of Darth Vader in the comics. So we'll be right back.
It's the best back cover since Star Wars Episode 1 hardcover novelization. The one with young Anakin, because on the back, just to remind y'all, is a full headshot of Watto.
It's so big.
I think I brought this up on one of the earliest episodes of the Living Force ever, and I thought I'd bring it back.
Oh my god, yeah.
Series and all of Legends. What do you guys think? Could it be the X-Wing series? Might just be the most romance-intensive series ever. And we're not just talking about the scene where Corran Horn describes his love affair with an otter. I mean, a Salonian that he hooked up with her and then he broke out in chives.
Yeah, not chives.
Not
chives.
What's it called? The bumps?
Hives, dude. Hives.
Chives go on your potato.
I'm hearing you say the same thing.
Chives, what you put on the potato. No C. Hives.
Hives.
Not chives.
What did I say?
Chives.
It's not a very common story to approach. Yeah, again, drawing the complex family tree of Jango to clone identical son to clone all identical millions of sons, but they're a generation older. So then the son is kind of all Jango's equal, but then Boba is a generation younger, but then that clone's son is Boba's age, but then is Boba his dad or his nephew or his uncle or his cousin? It's like
Okay. So as we had mentioned before, this is Imperial March. So hopefully this will be a yearly tradition where we get to take a step back and talk about more Imperial issues. This one specifically will be about Vader's handlers. There's never been an official title. They've never said that in any of the comics or any of the shows, but if you look through like all of the mediums that Vader's in, he's very often paired with an Imperial officer or a bounty hunter or someone else around him to kind of help direct Vader and point him in certain directions, give him someone to talk to, let someone talk for him. So we just want to take a moment to reflect on those brave souls who have served and died along Vader, mostly because of Vader, and just, try to pick our favorites, figure out what makes a good handler, good counterpoint to Vader. So we're going to start maybe a little dry with kind of a big list of some of the ones from the comics I specifically pulled out here. So feel free to, we'll pause after each one. We can chime in, see if we actually remember these people, if they left any impressions, and go from here. So first on my list is Inspector Thanoff. He was in the 2015 run, issues about 8 to 20. Essentially an Imperial Sherlock Holmes character who dug very deep into Vader's private life, backstories. He died by Vader's lightsaber in issue 20.
Yeah, I think we're gonna say that about a lot of these handlers. They died by Vader's lightsaber.
Exactly. He was I don't want to say my favorite because that
Mhm.
implies that like he had like a lot of face time or a lot of value, but I thought that he was the person that could have been most useful to Vader if he had been able to work with him in the way that was a little bit more inclined to Vader's liking and not the Emperor's, psychological warfare, continual psychological warfare on Vader for constantly needing a handler. I actually like Thanos a lot.
Oh yeah, he was a fun character. I said it's fun to see like essentially he did a lot of the Sherlock Holmesian tricks of like seeing wear patterns on keypads,
Right. Yep.
doing a lot of straight analysis, and that was kind of his downfall, is he was too smart for his own good and realized, I think he did at the very end discover that, oh wait, this Darth Vader cat might actually be Anakin Skywalker, and that's what really did him in.
Yeah, he was
Yes.
definitely one of the, I would say, more astute of Vader's handlers, and I thought he was a really interesting character. And just to have somebody that was kind of on to what Vader's like inner emotions were was a really interesting dynamic. So I really like this character a lot.
Exactly, and I'd be remiss to say he was also the instructor, and his protege was Inspector Tolvin, or Commander Tolvin from the Afra series. That was a kind of
Oh, that's
sideline
right.
that they put in
Yeah.
there. So
Totally forgot
another
about
connection there. All right, next up, this one I will forgive all of you if you completely forgot about him, was Governor R from the Age of Rebellion one-shot, Darth Vader, essentially a greedy bureaucrat who was given essentially free reign over Vader and used him almost like a toy to do his own bidding. He died by a giant enemy crab.
That's why I disappointed myself for not remembering who this is.
I didn't remember
Because
either.
Death by Giant and Crab seems a pretty memorable way to go. So
It's
I'm
true.
very disappointed in myself that I wasn't able to remember this one.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
I was
said-
gathering the images for tonight's show, and I was like, who? Like, and then when I saw the Google image, I was like, wait, I need to like, there's got to be a way to double check to make sure this is the right guy, because I do not remember this guy.
Oh, absolutely. Like, for those who didn't read the one shot, you should. It's pretty good. But as I said, he's an administrator, a bureaucrat who the Emperor essentially says, by the way, Vader, you still have to follow this guy's orders no matter what he says. So he starts, go single-handedly take out this rebellion, or go into this asteroid field and fly around and shoot whatever you find. Vader essentially tricks a giant enemy space crab to attack the bridge where he's at, thus killing his the Governor R and freeing himself from this bond. Of course, the Emperor thinks this is hilarious and, of course, applauds Vader's creativity.
Yeah, I mean,
You're
just that
jogging my
sentence you
memory
just
now.
said was absolutely wild.
Yeah, you're
yeah.
jogging my memory now. I do somewhat remember this.
Exactly. All right, let's keep this train chugging along. Next up, a little bit more memorable. This is the ninth sister from the Vader 2017 run. She's only really hurt his handler, more like a wheelman for 2 issues. I like the dynamic because she definitely seemed to talk down to Vader. It definitely seemed to be like, oh, well, he seems to have gotten himself in a fight, but it's also Darth Vader, and I don't like him, so I'm going to let him deal with the situation by himself. One of the few ones who did not die by Vader, she supposedly died by Cal Kestis in the video game Jedi Fallen Order.
I mean, didn't she get thrown from a tree on Kashyyyk?
A Worshir tree? Yeah, she
A
did get
Worshir
thrown from
tree? Yeah.
a giant
Yeah.
tree. But since when has
Those-
fall damage ever killed anyone in Star Wars?
All right. That's a good point. Two very, very important tropes. You don't see a dead body, doesn't mean they're dead. And just because they get thrown from a tall place doesn't mean they're dead. So you're very right. You're very right.
Exactly. Like, she's going to come back.
As Mace Windu or as Samuel L. Jackson is in the news this week for saying, "I
He
want to
wants
bring Mace
in.
Windu back." So I back off from that obvious statement that she's obviously dead.
Yeah, yeah. You can never. I mean, I will always be the person that believes that Phasma's not dead. Like, I don't believe that the Ninth Sister is dead. I don't buy it.
Mace Windu ain't dead. Han Solo is dead.
Yes, he is dead.
Yeah.
dead.
Well, Han Solo got stabbed. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's
that was pretty
there's a little bit of a
convincing.
Yes.
Yes, he did fall from a high place, but he was stabbed first. So, that bounces out. Next one, kind of like the platonic ideal here. We see him a little bit in comics, but this is Grand Moff Tarkin. I think kind of like
such a minor character.
Yes, and I will never ever be able to live that down, and I'm okay with that. Grand Moff Tarkin, I think, kind of showed us in the very first movie, kind of how to handle Vader. Of like, this is obviously a blunt force instrument, so I have to kind of be very delicate when I direct him and try to keep him away from all the rest of my senior staff, or he'll kill them all.
And Emma, awesome choice on the art for this one.
Thank you. I knew you guys would appreciate it.
We mentioned this a couple episodes ago. This is also from the Age of Rebellion Tarkin one shot, where Tarkin goes all Inception Fight Club in the issue, and I'm not gonna say anything more. It's a very, very fun issue, so I applaud you for choosing this art this week.
Thank you. I'm glad you noticed. I mean, how could you not? Like, it's Tarkin shirtless. Wow.
Yes.
So, as I said, do you think? Can you think of anyone else who might have been a better handler, who had a better relationship with Vader than Grand Moff Tarkin here?
I don't think anybody earned, I use that word loosely, earned the respect of Vader the way Tarkin did. And I think that's what made their relationship so different than all the other handlers. All these other people that we're mentioning here, I feel like Vader looked down on them. They are beneath me, and that's why I mentioned a little while ago that this is just another one of those psychological warfares that the Emperor was placing over Vader, to have this person of power report to this lowly, ordinary Imperial person. But Tarkin was different. Tarkin was definitely somebody that from what we've seen was respected by Vader, and that was it. That was that's why I think made the relationship so unique.
Exactly. And as Justin pointed out in the chat, one of the few people who wasn't killed by Vader. He was just killed by Vader's son.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, yeah, like we had mentioned at the top that we're gonna say that a lot of these people were killed by Vader's blade. Well, he's one of the exceptions.
Are we catching on to the theme here? Regardless of who it is, they all have a very common theme. If you haven't picked up on what ends up happening after they get done being Vader's handler.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So just he just let his son get that one in. Okay, this one is, I will say, none of you remember her name. I had to be very careful to look her up. Colonel Alva Breen from Vader 2017, issue number 21. The architect trusted by the Emperor that was going to try to design his citadel on Mustafar.
Yeah, I certainly did not remember her name. I remembered a character like this, but then again, like I said with the bald guy, I could not. I had to double check the image that came up on Google, because I had no idea who she was.
Exactly. The most important thing she did was she was killed by Darth Momin, who is our next kind of handler from the next several issues of the same run. Darth Momin, the crazed architect of the dark side. Less of a handler and more like someone who is handled by Vader, essentially his personal architect and creator of the citadel that we see in Solo and a bunch of the other comics, like the Tales from Vader's Castle. So I think Moomin definitely had a much longer appeal than poor Colonel here. So what did you guys think of Darth Moomin? Do you still have fond memories of him?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I remember the mask at least being very interesting, and also the backstory of the character being really interesting. This panel that I'm showing right now, I remember thinking like, wow, this dude is evil. Like he's really evil. And I also remember thinking that it was an interesting way to sort of make us look at Vader like, oh, this guy's not super evil compared to this guy. So I thought it was really interesting how they used his character, for sure.
Momin's another one of my favorite characters that I'm actually, now when we did our major moments, minor characters, that I didn't figure out a way to get him into that list, because He's one of my favorite characters that is, plays a minor role in these comics. Just because his story is just so unique. So very, very memorable for me. And the more moment we can get, the better.
I think one of my favorite memories is there's like a montage of, every time moment fails, Vader, of course, kills him and then reattaches his mask to someone else. So you see him go through several stormtroopers, several artificers. Yeah, I think he even puts the mask one time on like one of the lava fleas, one of the giant like, cow-like striders that the locals ride just for a life. Just, apparently he's powerful enough to subdue just about any mind. So a lot of fun here. Okay, and yes, in case you're curious, he was killed by Vader at the very end of the series. All right, next one is from the 2020 run, and I think I've gone on record by saying I hate this character. Jacob, if he was here, would probably defend him, but this is Z67 from the 2020 run, issues 1 through 5, a chatty forensics droid who followed him around and was a real chatterbox.
Yeah, Jacob is not here, but I will defend him. I really liked him. I don't remember. I don't remember what I said last time. I might have agreed with you. I totally don't remember. But looking back on it, like when I was gathering the pictures for the episode, I looked back and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this character. Like I liked him. He wasn't the worst. He was definitely the more I guess I would say like lighter of the characters in terms of like all of Vader's handlers. Like he was definitely
comic relief.
Yeah, he was the most likable, I guess I could say. And I mean, maybe not to you. I know you like to test him, but yeah, I thought he was an interesting way to test Vader's patience. I always love seeing that, like with Dr. Aphra and now Zed. Like they always test his patience. That's always hilarious.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, he's an afterthought in my head. So I guess I'm on the Caleb camp in this, where I just whatever. Not really a big fan of mine. So
lucky for you, he's gone. So
yeah, he's definitely not coming back in any more series. Definitely not returning. No. So, like I said, death, of course, by Vader. I think this is the best part of his character is when they were going through the Polis Massian archives. I think it's in the page right after this one where you have on the screen where he says, "Oh, like this Padme chick right before she gave birth, she's talking to about someone named Obi-Wan. They must have been very close." And at that moment, Vader snaps and cuts him in half. I love that kind of scene of like Vader is still jealous of his old master, and he still thinks that maybe Padme was lying to him this entire time, and maybe Obi-Wan and her were way closer than he thought.
At first, I thought you were going to say that his best moment was when he died.
Well, yes, but because of what it brought out in Vader, that it's weird to see Vader jealous again.
Yeah,
that was kind of Anakin's big thing, but to see it still in Vader, that's great.
Yeah, he definitely kind of brought out a little bit of Anakin in Vader, which is something that none of the other characters really did. So I guess we can praise him for that.
And I think that that's a notable accomplishment is when we can see the Anakin side fighting, maybe you could say, to come out in Vader. I think that those are really memorable moments in the comics and really give Vader that much more depth. So he needs. So I take it back. Zed still needs to have at least a little asterisk as to his importance. But other than that, yeah, he came, he saw, he died, just like everybody else.
Well, this next one has died in canon. We just don't know where at, and that is the last one of the list, Ochi of Bestoon. From Vader 2020 issue 6 to current. The turncoat assassin of the Emperor turned Vader's henchperson, turned who knows what by now.
Yeah, I mean, Ochi is one of, honestly, my favorite characters, and honestly, one of the bigger surprises that came out of Darth Vader 2020. I mean, we had a lot of them too. I mean, there was the Amidalans and Sabe, but honestly, Ochi was like one of the biggest surprises for me, and I think just being able to see more of his personality. I mean, we had never heard him speak before. We only saw him for literally a few seconds in The Rise of Skywalker, so just being able to see more of his character was really cool, and also just learning how he's affiliated with the Sith. And I think his relationship with Vader is also really interesting because he's loyal to the Emperor, but you can also tell that he's building some loyalty to Vader as well, which makes him have some dual loyalties, and I think that's always super interesting.
But he's gonna die, right?
Like
Vader's gonna kill him, right?
Well, is Vader going to be the one to kill him? I don't know yet. Like, I don't think so, because I think he'll last a little longer past the fall of the Empire. But that's the thing; it's we don't know, and they didn't explain it in the movies, and that's a good thing. I'm glad we get a little bit more room to play with this character, because this is a fun character. I think he's going to be in one of the new books that's coming out, where I think they've mentioned where Lando and Luke are going to team up and try to chase him down.
That would be great. Yeah, I mean, I go back through this list, and while Vader isn't the actual person who is killing all of these characters, other than the Ninth Sister, he is directly responsible for. I mean, yes, Colonel Breen is technically killed by Darth Momon, but I still kind of say that that's Vader's fault, or maybe not fault, but like he's the reason that she's in that position.
Oh, absolutely.
So Vader has to have some cause for Ochi's eventual demise.
Oh, yeah. As I said, kind of like Grand Moff Tarkin, maybe it's his son that does it.
There you go.
All right. Now we do have two honorable mentions. Maybe not as official handlers, or may not because they weren't in the comics yet, but I do want to bring up these two people. One, of course, is Grand Admiral Thrawn. You know, if you read, was it Thrawn Alliances, the second one?
Thrawn Alliances, and a little bit even of Treason.
I haven't read Treason yet, but
there's not handling per se, but there is definitely. I wouldn't. Do I go so far as to say that Thrawn was playing politics? Given that that's his weakness, you could kind of sort of say that he was possibly manipulating and playing with Vader in that book. So for the sake of this list, that's a great addition to this list.
Exactly. Like, I think he's up there with Thrawn. Thrawn is up there with Grand Moff Tarkin, of someone who kind of understands Vader and would work very well with him. Like, I think they bring out the best in each other, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Like, it's almost like they're slightly competitive with each other. Not necessarily Thrawn, but I feel like Vader's slightly competitive with Thrawn because he wants the approval of the Emperor, and he can see that Thrawn is getting a lot of approval from him. So I think you're right. Like, they do bring out the best in each other because they don't want the other one to win. You know, it's like what Huck said. Like, I don't want Kylo to whatever the heck he said. He's like, I just want Ren to lose. Like, it's kind of like that, you know.
So I don't want these guys to win. I just need you to not win. It's
I definitely feel, especially in alliances, that Vader was able to identify when Thrawn manipulated is a strong word, but when Thrawn manipulated Vader into doing exactly what Thrawn wanted, Vader saw it, was like, I don't know how you just did that, but I don't like it, and I'm gonna make sure that you don't do it again. And then still tries to like throw in do it quickly or else I'm gonna and then tries to like throw down the parent card of, well, because I said so anyway, card with him oftentimes. But yeah, those two are amazing dynamic between the two of them.
Absolutely. I wish maybe we'll see more of Thrawn in the next coming live episodes. I'd love to see him in live action.
Justin says in the chat that he loves how Thrawn gaslights Vader with constantly bringing up Skywalker in alliances. And yeah, That's what I'm talking about. He says things that just get under Vader's skin, and it's a really fascinating dynamic.
Like, do you remember the last time we were here? We were never here together. Oh yeah, you're right. We were never here at this planet before, ever, at all, not once.
Well, all right, we've got one more
honorable
mention.
Exactly, and Thrawn was definitely an honorable mention because of his books. This one is very much a comics character, but definitely handler's definitely not the right term for this. This is Dr. Aphra, someone who he essentially Vader almost kidnap might be not the right word, but essentially conscripts into his service.
Yeah, I would almost call it blackmail.
That's a better word for it. Yeah, he can't just.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say he pretty much conscripts her into the service, gets her to do his bidding, and then it also eventually does kill her.
I was going to say, and technically kills her.
Exactly.
So, we got everything here, power plays, military buildup, and, killing them at the end of a job well done.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love Dr. Aphra. Like, I feel like whenever we're talking about Vader, we've always got to talk about Aphra, even though, she might not technically be considered a handler. I mean, she certainly works closely with him and sort of, I think, earns his ear a little bit here and there. I think she's definitely worth mentioning, along with, 000 and B21. How could I go without mentioning them?
Exactly. All right. Well, let's blaze through a few more subtopics here. All right. So let's kind of go through a quick list of kind of things I picked out, like traits I picked out, and think about what we would like to see in our handler. And I think we've already come across a few of these trends here, but who do we think makes the perfect ideal accompaniment for Vader? Like, one, how humor should it be? Should it be funny, like cracking jokes, or should it be as serious and as grave as Vader himself?
Personally, I think that they should be a bit funny. Like Zed, like Aphra. I like when they have some humor to them. Even Ochi at times. He's kind of funny sometimes.
Like Ochi and Zed are on the far end of the spectrum.
Exactly.
While,
Aphra.
Well, who should I say here? Like Inspector the Inspector and Tarkin are like all the way over here on the opposite end.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I always think that it's always fun to see the counterbalance between someone that's really funny and then somebody that is just stone cold serious like Vader. It's always hilarious because it always ends up producing this really dry humor from Vader, which is always really fun to see. So I vote for more humorous.
I think somebody that you just said it best, Emma, somebody who plays off of Vader. Mm-hmm. So for me, maybe not necessarily funny, but sarcastic, I think is what provides some really banter for as best as Vader actually provides banter. I think sarcasm is probably something that benefits a handler of Darth Vader.
Okay. I think they're like, for the importance of the story, it's nice to have someone who can make wisecracks, but I think overall, I think I prefer that to be less important sort of thing. So I think I'd put it more towards the middle. So no, definitely not towards like the Zed side of things. All right, next up, speaking of the Zed side of things, chatter. Vader is historically terse. Like, how much should his handler, his follower, make up for that? Should they be a chatty Cathy, or should they be as limited in their vocabulary as Vader himself?
I fall somewhere in the middle, somewhere between the two extremes, just because if they're too chatty, they become annoying. And if they're not chatty enough, you get like zero dialogue, and that's never fun. So I think somewhere in the middle, maybe where maybe almost like what happens when you have like a Wookiee character or something, where the other character ends up sort of like speaking the thoughts for the other person, that type of thing, like almost translating Vader's thoughts, like, oh, you're mad at me? Well, let me tell you, something in between there, I think is the most ideal.
Yeah, I think somebody who carries the plot along, because you're right. Vader doesn't work best as a narrator. He works best as an object that destroys things. So having somebody that kind of allows us as the reader to kind of get into the scene a little bit more. I like that, and I think that's probably I prefer somebody that's probably a little bit on the chattier side of the dynamic.
Yeah, I think I'm agree with both of you. I think someone who talks more than Vader is very important for having an actual like readable story. Like it could be fun for a one shot where like Vader says all of 4 words, but you couldn't make a real series about it. So that's a kind of an important thing. Here's a fun one: Imperial regulations. Vader is not real, even though he's like the head of the military of the Empire, he's not really bound by any of their rules, ranks, or regulations. And that definitely helps him out a lot in his dealings with his underlings, especially when he force chokes and force promotes people all the time. But how should his handler be in that? Should they be the sort of people who really care about that and are very impressed by rank? Or are they the sort of people who should be as cavalier towards these attitude in an attitude as Vader does?
I'm not 100% sure how to describe my feelings on this, so I'm going to use Ochi as an example. I think he does a great job at respecting the Imperial hierarchy, like, for example, being really loyal to the Emperor, while also not being so attached to the Imperial structure of things that it bogs him down. Like, he's able to kind of go off book a little bit, especially when Vader wants to go off book. He doesn't get, concerned about when when they throw an audible in there. So I definitely think a character like Ochi, who has no Imperial ties, maybe some loyalties, and is able to sort of push the limits a little bit when it comes to Imperial rules and regulations, like kind of ticking off the the Empire there. Hey, guy.
Yeah. So, like I said, it is spring break. So my kids are around, and my 5-year-old just crashed the show for a quick moment. And I don't think he realized that we were. Yeah, I don't think he realized that we were on camera, because as much as he wanted to say hi to me, he very quickly realized when he saw himself, he ran away very, very quickly. So, anyways, Imperial regulations. I think it benefits the handler to be above the law. Until it doesn't, because that's how kind of sort of how I see Thanath is that he follows along with Vader and realizes that he can do kind of whatever he wants until he gets his nose, into the area that he shouldn't belong, and then Vader goes off and kills him. So I think it makes a very interesting dynamic to have the characters kind of not attempt to hold Vader to a certain letter of the law and just kind of follow along in Vader's, holding on to Vader's, coattails. But that's going to end poorly for them. So, moderation. Everything is great in moderation.
I love it when Vader is paired with someone who cares like so deeply about regulations they have it all memorized, because it's always a fun dynamic when they realize that the person they're following, who's above them in station, is like completely irreverent to all those rules they've recognized and memorized. So I love that dynamic of like someone who is a rules follower being paired with someone who is a rules breaker, but the rules breaker is also a breaker of necks. And I love that dynamic of, well, we should be doing it this way, but Vader, I love when it shows that Vader is the Empire, but he's also like the worst Imperial agent ever. In terms of following regulations and doing things, he just does whatever he wants. He's such a wild ball of death and chaos. Like, seeing him just ignore everything that his underlings are telling him, it's great. Now, speaking of death balls and chaos, bloodthirst. This is our kind of last in our alignment chart here. Vader has arguably the highest personal body count in the entire Star Wars series. I can't think of anyone else who has killed more people than Vader / Anakin combined. Personally, Tarkin blew up a planet, but hand to hand, face to face sort of things.
I was gonna say, like, as bad as this sounds, maybe Luke Skywalker because of the Death Star. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There we go. His son has surpassed him in every way conceivable.
Allegedly, Chopper as well. I keep seeing stories that Chopper is actually the most
That's insane.
murderous of all the Star Wars characters.
I really love that though. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Anyways, sorry to interrupt, Caleb.
Oh yeah, I said, well, that's the sort of thing is Vader is a bloodthirsty maniac. How do we like seeing that dynamic when his followers are like, oh wow, you're really killing too many people here, or do we like it when we see that almost encouraged?
I hate to be boring, but I think I'm gonna say somewhere in the middle again. Like, I think it would be like too easy for them to encourage him all the way, because then that would seem like they're afraid of him and only want to agree with him. But you don't want them to say, oh, like, don't kill anyone, like don't do anything, because that's not interesting either. So, as boring as it is, I'm gonna go with somewhere in the middle.
I want them to be disparaged. I'm sorry, no, I want the bloodthirst to be encouraged, because when they ultimately meet their demise, it feels that much better when they meet the demise, because it's one less bloodthirsty Imperial that we have to worry about.
True.
And it makes Vader eventually killing them feel at least a little bit okay. So
yes. So I'm kind of in there. I think I like, again, kind of like the regulations. I like it when there's a kind of a pushback, like, Vader, stop killing all these people, and Vader's just stop me if you want to, sort of thing, or if you can try.
So that we ran through a lot of names, and as Justin in the chat has mentioned, that isn't even all of them, and we could continue to name names, talk about Cassio Teg, talk about Queen Trios. So this is a topic that we very easily could return back to for a future episode, just to talk about all the other characters that have that much of a run in with Vader. But I did want to have a little bit of fun. Caleb has a little fun question here. We're gonna go around the room, and I'm gonna modify this question a little bit. I'm gonna ask each of you, and I'll answer it as well. How long would you last as Vader's handler? So Caleb, actually, I'm gonna let y'all think about it, because I've had time to think about how I was gonna modify this. So I'll go first. I don't give myself a week. I would not handle Vader very well. He would scare the living what out of me, and I would very quickly mess up, and that'd be that. There's no, if I were to last a week, I would be considered myself very lucky. Because there's no way I could live up to Vader's expectations. So yeah, I'm gonna say 4 days. That's how long I could last. Caleb, I'm gonna toss it to you next.
All right. Well, you know what? I think I could do so much better. I think I could go a full 14 days, a whole 2 weeks. I think it's kind of the dynamic of, like, honestly, the jokey answer is, I'd last long enough till I made my first mistake. Yeah, exactly. That's how long I'd last. I think it's one of those things, like, if you catch Vader in a good time versus a bad time, like, depends on when those, like, 14 days are. Like, if he's, like, in dry dock repairing his ship, that could be pretty easy. If that's a very good point. If we're fighting rebels,
if he's off on mission, I'm fine.
Yeah, like I said, I think I could do about 14 days. I think I would do pretty well, and then, like, something just completely that I didn't even think of, like, oh wait, we're supposed to refresh your Bacta in your weird sleeping pod. I had no idea. Why didn't you? That wasn't in the manual. Yep, sort of thing. Like, I would be blindsided by something that, surely someone else handles that, right? That's not my exact job, right, Mr. Vader?
Oh,
Justin in the chat says he wouldn't even last a day. He says I would step on his cape or something dumb like that, and that'd be it. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel I would be too. It would be something very, very minute like that I would just be have my neck snapped very quickly, and I'd prefer the neck snap immediately over a lightsaber, just like Afra. Yeah. All right, Emma, what about you?
Okay, this is a really tough question, because, like, I'm going to approach this question as if I'm forced into it, because I know that personally I mean, obviously, none of us would like ever go with Vader's mission, right? Like, you know. So that aside, I think I would last about a month, and here's why.
Okay.
I know this is like really shocking to a lot of people, but I think that I would be so terrified of Vader that I would do whatever it took to please him, just to make sure that I could live another day and try to, you know, maybe. I mean, I know that obviously there's like this huge pattern of people just like dying when he's done with them, but maybe just trying to live long enough to maybe survive to do something else. But again, like everybody else said, I think that there would definitely be some sort of a mistake that happens that then I would, you know, get the boot. And yeah, so I think I would last about a month, you know, just trying to make him happy, trying not to get my neck snapped, trying not to get the blade through the abdomen, you know, the basics.
I applaud your confidence.
Yes.
I applaud your confidence, because I would never, I wouldn't get anywhere close to a month.
Like I will say that when I was, you know, thinking about these questions, I was reminded of the Robot Chicken sketch. If you remember, where they're teaching a new guy the ropes around the executor of like, when Vader holds up his hand, you just like play around, you choke, you fall on the floor. We'll drag you out. We'll get you a new name, a new mustache. You'll be back in 24 hours. And
That's
we'll
so
like,
funny.
you know, Johnson here's been killed 7 different times.
All right. So follow up to this. Would you last longer as Vader's handler or Kylo's handler?
Vader, I would last longer as Kylo's handler. Kylo, I think, is maybe more mercurial. He's more chaotic, but I don't know if he's like the sort of person who directly kills people underneath him. He's too much of a secret nice boy.
I think I could last. I would also be Kylo, but I feel like I could avoid Kylo longer, not because of my own competency, but I feel like I could avoid Kylo for a week, you know, or pop in just often enough to not really piss him off, that I would last longer as Kylo's handler.
This is another tough question. I think I'm going to say Vader, actually, because I feel like Vader and I might, like, if I had to pick between the two, I feel like we might get along a little bit better, because I think I personally would get extremely impatient with Kylo. You know, he's just like, he's too bratty for me, I think.
So,
like, he's too much of a drama queen.
All right, I have to ask this. Okay. How would you get along with Vader? Because that's an intriguing comment, that you would get along with Vader.
Well, it's not necessarily that I would get along with him. It's just we would coexist a little bit better than I would coexist with Kylo. It's not that we're coexisting. It's like -10 versus -5.
Okay, I'm like, are you having lunch break? Like, hey Vader, we're going. It's lunch break. You know, we're gonna go down to the cafeteria and you know, grab a calf. Or
if that's what kept me from being killed, I might. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, yes, that would probably make me like a horrible person in terms of like, you know, if you're a rebel looking on the outside and you're like, hey, what's she doing eating lunch with Darth Vader? And it's like, I'm just trying to survive. Don't be mad at me.
It's 2 for Taco Tuesdays. I mean, what else am I supposed to do?
I just wanted to see him with his helmet off. I was curious.
All right, and the last fun question of the night: which canon character would last the longest as Vader's handler based on performance alone?
Yeah, when I wrote that, what I meant is like we could pick a Rebels character or a, you know, like someone from the Old Republic. You know, just someone who is like, regardless of whether they would fight against Vader or not, like who do you think would be the person to like last long enough as like a handler or as a person with him?
So my answer, there's a little bit of a stretch because he's a Jedi, but if you ignore the fact that he's a Jedi, you just go on personality alone. If they were on the same side, Mace Windu.
That's
a good choice, I think.
Mace Windu would be like, no, I'm not going to go do that. You go do it. And Vader would be like, wait, what are you talking? And so
you're like, what's that? Knight Vader, not Lord Vader, Knight Vader.
Exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely Mace Windu.
That's a good choice. Yeah. I feel like the last time we talked about this, my semi-serious answer would be I'd like to see, maybe not as a long time, but at least for a short series of Vader and Jar Jar Binks together, Senator Binks together. Like, I feel like this is kind of anti to all of the traits I picked myself, but he's he's the humorous side. He's got the chatty side. He'd probably be kind of slightly less focused and would definitely be a lot more merciful. So I think that'd be a really fun dynamic to see the two of them on a mission together.
Yeah, that's an interesting
That's
pick.
an interesting pick.
I'm going to go to the sequel trilogy here, and I don't know what made me think of this character, but I did, and that's Allegiant General Pride. I think he's like super loyal.
Okay.
And I think
For a second, I thought you were going to go Poe, and I'm like, no, Poe would last.
No. No way. He would last even shorter than you would, Tyler.
Yes, 100%.
But yeah, so I think that he'd be loyal enough, and my only hesitation with him is that he's definitely a rule follower. But I think I think Vader needs that sometimes. He needs a little bit of like that Imperial like backup, I guess you would say. Like he's definitely. He believes in the cause so much. That's what makes him dangerous, but that's what also makes him a great partner for Vader.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this topic. Before we close the show out, Emma, you've got some announcements for our next show as well as our sister shows this week.
I do. Yeah. So, our next episode is going to be a Paolo Villanelli artist spotlight. It's been a while since we've done one of those, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then tomorrow on Legends Look Back, it's going to be a Crimson Empire roundtable, which that we're going to be tuning into because comics.
Absolutely.
Right?
More comics.
And, yes, absolutely. So, and then Monday on The Living Force, it's going to be the second part of their Midnight Horizon roundtable. Which is going to be a lot of fun. The first part was awesome, and I can't wait for the second part. So, yeah, that's what you can look forward to coming up live right here on YouTube.
Lots of good stuff. But until then, that is going to do it for this week's episode of The Cosmic Force. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show right here on YouTube or on your podcast platforms. But if you're here on YouTube, you can hear us live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. We also encourage you to subscribe to the audio version on whatever platform you are listening to. You can follow us on Twitter or tweet at the show at Cosmic Force Show to stay informed about Star Wars comics happenings, or follow the host individually. I'm at Ty Rags, Emma is at Irma Jedi 26, Caleb is at Caleb Lamanek, and Jacob is at Jacob Bosch. For reviews, articles, and news for the rest of the expanded universe, be sure to visit utini.com. We also encourage you to join our Utini Discord community by going to utini.com/Discord, and you can help support the shows by heading to patreon.com/Utini and start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. A special thank you to OK Endar, Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, as well as Matt Bellington, Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Lions High Command. Thank you for all of your continued amazing support. Thank you again to Emma and Caleb for hosting with me tonight. Special thank you to our listeners joining us live in the chat, as well as all of you listeners wherever and whenever you are listening to us. We truly appreciate your support. We hope to see you again next Wednesday, but until then, may the Force be with you.